All right. I kind of want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I appreciate you all joining us. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Partnerships for Environmental Public Health, PEPH webinar. This webinar is Safety and Health Training for American Indians and Alaska Natives in the Western U.S. This is session 2. My name is Jim Remington. I'm a program analyst at the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences Worker Education and Training Branch. I'll be your moderator for today for this hour. But before we get started, I just want to address some quick housekeeping items and set the stage for our presentation. We have muted all participants to cut down on any background noise and ensure the best Zoom experience for everyone. To make a comment or submit a question at any time during the webinar, please use the Zoom chat feature. Indicate who your comments for, or questions for. And to access that chat feature, you may need to hover your cursor along the bottom of the screen to activate the Zoom toolbar. Once the Zoom toolbar appears, you can select chat and submit your question or comment. Although you're welcome to submit your questions at any time, we'll hold them until the Q&A session after the last presentation. If you have any technical issues during the webinar, please contact Justin Crane, Tech Help, via the chat, and he will assist you. Please submit all content-related questions to me, Jim Remington, or you can also select everyone. Please indicate which presenter your questions for, so we know who to direct it to during the Q&A session. With that, we're ready to begin. So our presenters today are Roy Stover, a senior instructor and Native American training coordinator at the Workplace Safety Training Program, a division of the Alabama Fire College. Les Benedict, an assistant director for environmental division of the St. Regis Mohawk tribe located in upstate New York. They'll be teaming it, and then following them will be Rodrigo Toscano, a senior coordinator for labor and environmental education at the Labor Institute. For the sake of time, I invite you to check out the full speaker bios online, and that link should be in your chat. And basically, I just give you a quick background on me and our program. So the Worker Education Training Program, we're funded through the Superfund, and we provide cooperative agreement grants to nonprofits, academic institutions, and labor. And basically, the goal is to get health and safety training to avoid exposure to hazardous materials. I'm very happy to have 2 of our grantees on this presentation to kind of give you a little taste of some of the populations we reach out and provide this training to. So with that, our first presentation will be given by Roy and Les. Roy, the floor is yours.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Roy Stover, and with the Environmental Health and Safety Program, the Workplace Safety Training Program, a division of the Alabama Fire College. And like Jim said, with a grant from the NIEHS and in a partnership with the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, we provide hazmat and emergency response training to Native Americans. By the way, we're one of the original grantees of the NIEHS for this program. I think it was 1987, it started in 1987. In the late 90s, 2 Native American conservation officers from the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians attended one of our courses. And let me close this on the side so I can, so you can see better here. Attended one of our courses for the work safety program, and with funding from the worker training program of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. And said officers recognized the importance of this training for their safety and that of all the fellow travel officers that were at risk of coming upon illegal and toxic dumps on travel lands. Thus, the idea of providing this training to all the Native Americans with this much needed training was born. Shortly thereafter, and with support, like I said, of NIEHS, and in partnership with the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, WST has been providing training to Native Americans throughout the United States in a variety of hazmat and emergency response related subjects. Now, here's some of the courses that we provide: the 40-hour HAZWOPER, 8-hour hazmat updates, illicit drug labs awareness with the advent of the drug epidemics, the latest one, fentanyl and others, very popular classes. Radiation, nuclear awareness, incident command system, ICS courses, 100, 200, 700, 800, and even the higher end, 300 and 400 series courses. Hazmat awareness for first responders, mass casualty incident triage awareness, hazardous materials awareness and operations, and responder safety awareness during disaster response. So here's some of the courses that we provide to Native Americans throughout the United States. We have covered almost every state in the Union, including Alaska. And here's some of the patches that my pictures that I take throughout our travels. And one of the things that we encourage in our class recruitment efforts is always to encourage tribes to have more women and younger tribe members to attend our WST classes. Some of the difficulties reaching Native American tribes, well, difficulties, first of all, to identify the right person and the tribe to schedule and organize a class. Distant and remote locations, which many of them are very, very difficult to reach, lack of hotels in the area, for example, will travel to one airport, drive 4 or 5 hours to the nearest town, and then drive an hour every morning and every afternoon after the class or so. It's not uncommon, besides the hazards that you encountered on the road, of course. Like I said, this distance and remote locations of some of these tribes. And the resources at these locations are also a problem, but not unsurmountable. We have taught classes in gyms and garages and even in an office at one time. But there are some difficulties, of course, reaching Native American tribes. As far as success stories, we have several success stories, actually. WST was recognized for the invaluable preparedness training that we provided to the Porch Creek Indians of Alabama prior to the 2005 Hurricane Katrina. And the tribe was fully prepared and equipped to deal with this hurricane when it came about. The tribe in Atmore, Alabama also was used as a federal staging point for the region. And this obviously enabled the tribe to deliver the much needed help for other tribes in the affected region. For PEPH, Montana, the Assiniboine Sioux tribe in Montana, we are providing all levels of training for this tribe as well. And this training even continued during the COVID-19 shutdown through Zoom delivery courses. Other tribes that we have success stories, the Yakima Nation in Eastern Washington, as I understand, the next presenter also has some training at these same locations. And the neighborhood Cayuse, Walla Walla, Umatilla Confederate Tribes of Oregon. As a matter of fact, we're in talks right now with a picture here on the top right is Mr. David Wolf to bring a 40-hour course to the tribe coming up soon. We haven't set a date yet. Like I said, we have provided all levels of hazmat training to these tribes and also continue the training through in-person and in Zoom courses. But the success stories that we want to highlight today deals with the St. Regis Mohawk tribe in upstate New York. Our relationship started around 2011, I believe, when Mr. Les Benedict and I co-presented the DOT Emergency Response Guidebook at a national conference, Native American conference in Atmore, Alabama. And after this conference, he invited us to bring our training to his tribe. And there's Les' picture on the top right-hand corner of this slide. We have trained large numbers of responders throughout these years And we have taken every course that we provide to them and include the hazmat technician level, higher level courses like hazmat technician, and all the highest level of incident command system courses. These courses, this training has helped them provide or secondary numbers, and always they train the training courses as well. And this helped them improve their travel disaster preparedness and response capabilities, as well as being able to better interact with their state, federal, and agencies in their jurisdiction for regional and emergency response planning and training exercise. And without further ado here, let me introduce you to Mr. Les Benedict. Les, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, I appreciate that. The picture is 10 years old, so I got more hair on my head. What I thought I'd talk about is the relationship that we've had with the Alabama Fire College, and looks like I haven't. Oh, did I get the slides up?
You need to put in presenter mode. I mean, presentation.
Can you see the slides?
We see the slides, Les. We just see it still in the edit mode.
Okay. How's that? Any better?
We lost them.
You lost them. Okay. Modern technology. And it's probably, okay. Something's going on here. Is that any better?
That is perfect.
Okay. So, yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about the relationship we've had with the Alabama Fire College. Had a chance to get to know Roy and Kenny Oldfield and Ted Trayer over the years. And just introduce myself again quickly. My name's Les Benedict. I'm with the St. Regis Tribe, and I'm also a member of the Aquazusting Task Force on the Environment, which is a grassroots organization. I've been the assistant director for 30 plus years. My background is air quality, solid waste, brownfields, hazardous waste, environmental response, and I've also been able to qualify as an instructor for the Department of Homeland Security Center for Disaster Preparedness, where I received advanced training as a hazmat tech and in respiratory protection. Our community is in extreme northern New York. You can see the outline for New York State. We're right up at the border between Ontario, Quebec, and New York State. And you probably saw the watershed in the back, but it kind of gives you an idea of some of the issues that we have. Our backyard is actually the St. Lawrence Seaway system. So we have to deal with commercial shipping that goes in our backyard. The river goes right through our territory. And like any other community.
Hey, Les.
Yes, sir.
This is Liam O'Fallon. Your audio is breaking up on us. I'm wondering if maybe you could adjust your microphone there or something.
Sure, I can try that. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Okay. So in our backyard is the Seaway system, St. Lawrence Seaway system, and we have vessel traffic that carries all sorts of commodities through our backyard. And in these photos, you can see the commercial shipping in the back, and there's the international bridge. But we also have a legacy of hazardous waste sites. This site here is the General Motors site. It's a automotive casting facility, but it's no longer there. This is what it looks like now, only it's covered with dirt. There was a hazardous waste site. It was cleaned up by EPA. This other photo is just a picture of one of the aluminum smelters that's located up towards the west from us. And of course, we've got highway traffic with all sorts of commodities coming to the reserve. So early on, when I started back in 1990, we quickly learned that we had some needs, and those were needs included having trained and knowledgeable responders, and also working with other agencies that understood and recognized tribal sovereignty and self-governance. And we also needed to have a voice in regional planning and response, which didn't exist when I first started. So to address our needs, we've developed partnerships and support, the Alabama Fire College being one of those partnerships that we've had, and the support that we've received through training. We've also worked with U.S. EPA, FEMA, County Fire, U.S. Coast Guard, and St. Lawrence Seaway Corporation. In the background is a photograph of one of the annual exercises that we have each year to respond to on the river spills. And so we made that a part of our annual program, is to jointly exercise not only with Coast Guard, but with other regional responders. The types of support that we need and that we've received are technical assistance, and as I mentioned, training. Just a smattering of some of the training that we've received. Back last year, we had the shoreline contaminant assessment technique training with NOAA and the U.S. Coast Guard that we hosted. And of course, we've got Penny at one of our training courses last year. And the folks may not appreciate what we have to deal with, but this is some of the ice training that we've received, oil response in ice conditions. So we have a lot of different issues, a lot of different needs, and Alabama Fire College has been very a very important partner in filling some of those needs. Like Roy mentioned, we first came into contact at Wind Creek Casino in Atmore, Alabama in 2011. And since then, we've had 11 years of support through the Alabama Fire College Workplace Safety Training Program. I think out of the 9 courses, we've had 7 of the courses up here, including ICS, mass casualty triage, 40-hour HAZTAP, responder safety awareness, awareness operations. So we've gone through the entire list that the Fire College has had. What are the benefits? The benefits are, well, training delivery to our community that equals a cost and time savings for the tribe and for the staff. That means we don't have to send folks out and travel and have to worry about paying those expenses. Just as important, or maybe as more important, is enhanced tribal responder capacity for response and safety, which is pretty important. It was non-existent when I first started. We really didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were getting into, but we had some sense that some of this stuff wasn't very good to come into contact with. But so this type of training provides that responder safety training. It also gave us a seat at the table with regional response planners. I guess having an understanding of a basic understanding of the issues and understanding what response is all about, and in addition to understanding what the safety concerns are, we became versed with a lot of terminology, whether it's ICS. So we learned how the Coast Guard responds, how the New York State DEC responds. So it gave us the ability to understand and to be able to talk to other people at the table. And the AFC partnership also provides respect for tribal sovereignty and customs. They have a good appreciation, understanding for some of the nuances that are entirely different. There's a lot of common things between tribes, but there's also a lot of different things. And I believe that the Alabama Fire College has come to appreciate those different nuances and has responded to those. It's provided us with the ability for intertribal networking in an international community. Earlier, I showed you the map where our community is bordered by Ontario, Quebec, and New York State. Our community is international. Some of our community lives in Quebec. Some of our community lives in Ontario. And our satellite communities live up near Montreal and up near near Toronto. So we're able to work in that setting. It also provides the encouragement, self-confidence, and inspiration to be able to move forward, which I think is pretty important. Provides a lot of good confidence. So if you understand things well and if you have the confidence, you're going to be able to work well and work safely. And also peer training. So we've developed the capacity peer training where we can train other tribes, even if it's an awareness course. It helps us get other tribes trained and provide those types of resources. So in summary, tribal communities have similar but also unique situations and needs, as I tried to highlight. The AFC has been responsive to those needs, and we certainly appreciate what they brought to the table. And they filled the training gap where tribal resources can sometimes fall short. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Les, and thank you, Roy. If you have any questions for Roy or Les, you can submit them at this time, but just keep in mind that we'll hold the questions for the Q&A after the final presentation. Just reminder, when you submit your question, just indicate that who it's for. So the next presentation will be from Rodrigo Toscano. Rodrigo, you have the screen.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Rodrigo Toscano. Some of you may know me. I may be new to some of other people. Basically, I'm a bilingual senior coordinator for labor and environmental education. I work for the Labor Institute. I've been there since 2000. I'm a certified OSHA trainer in construction and general industry. I'm also an NIEHS certified trainer, having proficiency with over 30 health and safety specialized topics. I'm the lead DOE liaison for the United Steelworkers and Western tribes, as Irvin was saying. That would be the Cayuse, Umatilla, Walla Walla, Yakima, and Nez Perce. I'm a curriculum editor and translator, and an evaluator and writer for the Tony Mazzocchi Center, among other many things. But today, what we're going to talk about is the Tony Mazzocchi Center's and USW's relationship to the Northwestern tribes as regards a new program which we're about to launch. And so starting in this year of 2022, the United Steelworkers through the Tony Mazzocchi Center is set to extend its radiological control technician academics program to tribes in the immediate vicinity of the Hanford DOE facility. This is the first time that this kind of program is being offered to these tribes. It's going to be free of charge, and it's going to be done through a grant from the NIEHS. So the RCT academics program originally began at Portsmouth, Ohio, at the DOE site there in 2017. The program is now held at both the Portsmouth and the Paducah facilities. Sometimes it's called the Junior RadTech program because the education we provide, a 240-hour program, and the certification that the students receive at the end of the coursework allows them to become entry-level RCTs. It takes anywhere from 1 to 2 years to become a full tech. The certification program that would provide the skills that could be used at any time at private and government nuclear facilities. Okay, so why these particular tribes and what's going on with this Hanford DOE facility? You can see there that the main issues are at this facility: contaminated solids, groundwater spillage, toxic plumes, radioactive soil, and transport of contaminated materials, across tribal lands. So the backdrop to this story is that for about 40 years, the reactors located at Hanford produced plutonium for America's deep defense program. The process of making plutonium is extremely, as they say, inefficient, and that a massive amount of liquid and solid waste is generated, while only a small amount of plutonium is produced. Additionally, all the facilities and structures that were associated with Hanford's defense mission must also be deactivated, decommissioned, decontaminated, and demolished. That environmental cleanup project is the work that takes, it's actually a task that takes about 10,000 Hanford workers, and they're involved in that currently. So besides the millions of tons of solid waste, hundreds of billions of gallons of liquid waste that were generated during the plutonium production days, these liquid wastes were disposed of by pouring them into ground or into trenches or holding ponds. So unintentional spills of liquids has also taken place. The liquid waste that has been poured into the ground or held in trenches has long since evaporated or soaked into the soil on the site. In so doing, the waste contaminated some of the soil and is thought to have created what they call underground plumes and contaminants. So that's what's going on there. That's why we're focusing the program in that area. So one of the things we do is we always work through what are called TAROs, the Tribal Employment Rights Offices. And they're the groups that have contact with tribal members regarding employment and health and safety training. So what do the TAROs do? They serve tribal members, they recruit people, they monitor works, they work with mentorship programs. They very much work with workforce development, allocation of resources, and what concerns us is they're the ones that we partnership with unions and employers, and you can see there the different tribes I'm pictured there next to the TARO leaderships of these particular tribes that we're working with now. So that's the way that we're going to sort of launch that, is through the TAROs. So right now we're at the beginning stages of this pilot program, and it's the recruitment phase really. And so where the type of people that we want in the program are people who are currently mentors in terms of health and safety, youth, which you can see pictured there. That actually, all those pictures there is a recent a job fair that they had for tribal youth on the Umatilla Reservation, and I happened to go there and try to pitch the program. And you can see some of those youth there are some of our OSHA trained workers. We've been there before. We do OSHA 10s on construction and general industry. And it's from those groups that we're hoping to sort of recruit some of these people. We also want to recruit from tribal fire departments, environmental departments, archaeological, cultural departments, and those are very important. The archaeological, because you can't do anything on those lands without going through that particular department, because if you're going to stir up soil, there might be sort of cultural things of value in those soils. And then ultimately, we also want to work with the people that we've graduated in different kinds of training, like hazardous waste awareness and groups like that. Irvin, you mentioned that you were doing some of that work. It's funny that we're doing some of that work too. So I think we need to talk and see if we can sort of collaborate around some of these things. It'd be really great between our consortiums. Okay, so that's kind of work. That's the recruitment phase. And so let's talk about the course structure. It's a minimum of 240 hours, 120 hours training in math, science, and physics. And then the other half is the site-specific, the alarms, the monitor types, the evaluation protocols. And so where we're at too right now is we're trying to come up with the course work and sort of streamline it and adapt it to what the tribes, what they need. How are we going to get all these people in these different kinds of classes? And so this requires a more detailed view as to how we might do this. So I've tried to provide this in this next slide. So there's going to be 3 successive slides here. This is the first one. And this is, again, the 240 hours sort of scheduled here. You can see in the chart there that there's different times that we might do the courses in, right? So it could be, either, just move this here. I'm having a hard time seeing this. Okay, so you can see different time schedules there, but those are possible times that people might be able to take those courses. And all the way to the right, you see the actual courses. You see math, unit conversion, OSHA 10-hour, physical science, nuclear physics. So it's quite an involved program. Let's see what else is on there. And this is continuing from the last slide. Then we move on to, radiation, decay. You can see their interaction, biological effects. These are all, sort of classroom type instruction. So there's a hands-on component that's half of it. And so you start to see here the HAZWOP or the 40 hours, detector theory, internal controls and things like that. So, so that's the sort of coursework that we're looking at. We as yet don't know exactly to the letter how long it's going to take, but we have a year and a half to sort of spread this out, so to get everybody on board into this coursework. How many people are we thinking about putting in there? Well, we're thinking 25 at a minimum, if possible. We'll take less than that. We might take more than that. So let's see what. Okay, so the next steps is we have to establish the course structure, which you just saw, and come up with an end goal, and that's obviously graduation, a memorandum of understanding. We have to adapt course material. We have to identify trainers who can do these kinds of trainings. We're going to rely a lot on the people at Hammer, Volpest, maybe people from other consortiums. Certainly, we have people in our consortium who can do some of this training. These courses are going to be offered exclusively through the TAROs. And then obviously, the end goal is the graduation. And then after that is a pathway to employment. Because remember, these certifications are entry-level jobs. How much does a junior rad tech make? Anywhere from 35 to 45,000 at the entry level. Then the full techs, can make anywhere from 50 to I've heard as high as 90, depending on the experience. So it really is an entry level job. Where might these jobs be had? Maybe at the Hanford facility there. That would be optimal. But also the certification, can be used at different DOE locations and other governmental agencies. So prospectively, you might be looking at a 19 to, 24-year-old, maybe deciding to go out and work in Paducah, Kentucky, and, make a real living as a middle-class job. So all options are on the table. Now, what are I can't see that because what does it say? Something, and then barriers and strategies. So as Irvin was saying, geographic distances are a huge challenge here, because we're talking about the distance between, the Nez Perce and the Yakima. That's like 2 hours or almost 2 hours. And from these different tribes, we're supposed to funnel them into one class. So that's a big challenge. How are we going to handle all that? Some stuff might be done on site. Other things might be done at the sort of Hammer Center. So that's a challenge. Another challenge is the enrollment, attrition, retention ratio, which is, how many people can you keep in class? Some people might get halfway through and for whatever reasons, personal, professional, whatever, not be able to sort of finish the coursework. And so we have to sort of be very careful about being in very close contact with each and every candidate and student to help them get through the program. Another challenge is, we have to do a pre-test, frankly, our work keys test, as it's sometimes known as. And what that is a sort of pre-screen for people that can do basic math. They say, you know, that the level of math that you need would be almost like a pre-algebra thing. So we have to find instructors either on tribal lands or from other places that can teach these classes. Another one that popped up was this a drug testing thing, because a lot of these facilities, you know, they require drug testing before you enter them. And so, you know, we're going to have to realistically, you know, broadcast that to our candidates and give them realistic timelines, because after all, this is Washington State. And, you know, for example, it's like marijuana is legal, and, you know, we have to give people time to clean out if they're, you know, if they use recreational marijuana, so that they don't get shut out, you know, before they go on the facility. And then finally, you know, the job track possibilities. You know, we are committed to doing anything we can in conjunction with the tribal employment rights offices from each of these tribes. So it'll be an exciting thing once we get there. But like I said, as of now, we're at the first stage of this, of what we call recruitment phase. And so I've been you know, traveling to these areas and taking every opportunity to meet with the leadership of these tribes, and trying to figure out, you know, who might be good candidates. So that's it.
Thank you, Rodrigo. So now we move into the question and answer period of this this presentation. So if any of you have any questions, you could either put it in the chat. Just make sure you indicate who it's for, or you can raise your hand and we can do it that way as well. So I do have a question from Liam to Roy and Les. Could you speak to how materials have been modified for cultural relevance?
Yes, and I think I answered Liam on the chat. But sometimes the way we, for example, the term Native Americans, the portion of Americans, some may find offensive. I have some conversations with many of them, many members of tribes that find the part of Americans, which refer to Amerigo Vespucci, the explorer, the Italian explorer, they rather be called natives. Simple little things like that, intertribal rivalries, let's call it, avoiding subjects such as that, in some of the fightings between the tribes, let's put it that way, historically. Avoiding subject matters, political, religious, and more than anything, not so much changing the presentations per se, but just be careful of all these nuances in reference to Native Americans.
Okay. This is for Rodrigo and Roy again. Can you comment on some of the challenges in reaching the American Indian population and how they overcame that?
Well, you know, one thing that when I first started working with the tribes six or so years ago, I went on the premise that these were sovereign lands that had their own government, they had their own rules, and that each tribe had a different set of expectations as to how they deal with people coming from the outside. We at the TMC, United Steelworkers, we never impose any of our views. We say these are resources that we have. We want to work with you on this effort because of this or that, and then basically, you know, we wait for the response. But one challenge that I had at the beginning was knowing who the point people were for each particular tribe. And so it became very clear early on that the Tribal Employment Rights Office were the people we're going to work with. And sometimes those taros, you know, they would have direct contact with the youth, or sometimes the tribal council would have more, you know, contacts with the youth. Like I said, it differs. And so we had to remain as flexible as we could in a sort of, you know, in a diplomatic sense, in a political sense, in this effort. So, but it's going good. You know, I've gotten to know a lot of the people there, and you know, we know each other personally and things like that. So we'll see.
Roy, were you gonna make a comment?
No, no.
Okay.
I was just
And
reading.
Rodrigo, I got a request.
Yeah.
Could you put in the URL, the link for your training program? And would you be able to put that in the chat?
Yeah, I don't. Which link would that be? Oh, you mean for
Or
the
or the flyer, yeah, something that you're using to
Oh, oh, oh.
advertise.
Okay, let me a flyer.
Okay.
Well, the flyers are sort of the only one that we had was for the Umatilla tribe, and it was sort of on a hard copy, so I'd have to scan it and things like this. But what I'll do is I will put the Tony Mazzocchi Center's URL in just a second here, and you can see, you know, who we are and how we work, and then soon we'll have hopefully a page that you know, tracks this particular project, the RCT project with the tribes. If
Yeah,
that's all.
Rodrigo, when is that set to take off?
Well, listen, you know, it's on. It started. And it's really like any project that's you know, that's never been done before. You know, we're at the point where we have to put all the pieces on the table, look at them, you know, figure out, you know, a sequence for these pieces. And really where we're at right now is the recruitment phase. How many potential, you know, students can we get to join this program? Because remember, it's a 240-hour program with intense classes. And so I would imagine that people who are taking this class is not just for laughs. They expect something at the end of it. My perspective is on it that even if these youth don't go on to become RCT techs, you know, having that certification under their belt is pretty significant, actually. You know, it shows competence, shows scientific competence, hands-on competence. And so, but we at the USW, we can't deliberate on employment matters in tribal lands in any way whatsoever. We can say these are the possibilities that we see on the outside. We'll help you to liaise with these things, but those questions are ultimately up to the tribes themselves, and they all have different purposes and visions for what they want to do with their membership. You know, it's not all, they're all not all the same. Some want more youth, others want to sort of train current staff. So that's where we're at. It's like, it's really on right now. We don't have a single recruit that's committed. We have some people that signed up on a list that are interested. So what we're going to have to do is have a special meeting with those people to sort of, you know, give more detail and have them understand in a realistic matter what we're facing here. Then we have to go back and, you know, get the resources and the teachers and line up the curriculum and stuff like that. So yeah, this project's going to keep me awake for some time.
Okay. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Question for any of the presenters. How best to deal with intertribal fighting without taking sides and not getting into the politics? How do you avoid being caught in the middle? Or have you experienced this?
Yeah, I did once.
How did you handle it?
Well, I mean, you know, it's like, like I said, you're dealing with the government. You're literally dealing with the government, a different government, and you jump over anybody's head. You know, they'll tell you, you know, like, you know, don't do that. I didn't do it intentionally, but yeah, you learn and you go and you know, you're look, at any point, the sign of goodwill is like, you know, basically just comp to the fact that, you know, I'm not familiar with these societies, these social structures and these, right? And so that's a good way to begin. So they educate me on it, and that's the way to go.
Can I add to that? That was my question.
Sure.
So what I meant, thank you, Rodrigo. What I meant, however, is, first of all, we're working with a non-federally funded, non-federally supported tribe. and the fighting is coming from within the clan members to the different clans, within the different clans. If you work with one, the other thinks you're against them. If you work with the other, then there's bad words spoken. So I just wondered if I could get any advice on how to follow the science, stay within, my respectful zone, but deal with this infra fighting within the clans of the tribal nation. Thank you.
Well, I have had several occasions because our training, of course, we're in Alabama. Most of the tribes are out west, Southwest U.S. And we try to have several tribes, nearby tribes, get together for the training to get some numbers in our class. And we have had, we don't talk to them. And I won't mention who, of course, but it's a matter of getting to know the right person within those tribes for the better benefit of the tribe, of course. So we have actually had good success getting them to talk, but it's to find the right person to talk to each other. And actually for this one subject, which is for the benefit of both tribes, is good. And that's how it has happened to me several times. You just stay out of the fray. It's not your problem per se. It's probably something totally different, unrelated. So it's not, like we say, not our circus, not our monkeys. So we don't get into it. Very carefully. You got to navigate those waters. And like I said, their own nations and their own ways, and you have to respect that. But I have been successful by simply learning their needs and not the beef, because the beef, like I said, might be something totally different, but at least to talk to each other in this particular subject, to bring them together for a class at one location. And we have been very successful doing that. But infighting within the tribe, very difficult. For me, I would stay out of it. It's not something that we deal with normally. We just stay with the training portion of it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Thank
In my case, it's as Irvin and Les probably know, there's some tribes that are they're called confederated tribes, and so a lot of those bands and different groupings, like say within the Umatilla reservation, right? It's confederated, the Cayuse, the Walla Walla and the Umatilla under one form of government. So some of these things have been sort of worked out beforehand. So in the other two tribes that are the Nez Perce and the Yakima are exclusive to the tribes that are singular, and then their lands are they're singular in that way. So, but I'm sure there are situations that are very difficult. There's also the question of sometimes people have their own sort of departmental agendas, in some of these tribes, and you have to really hone in on which department is the one, sort of that's been given the green light by the greater government of the tribe to take on this task, so it's just a lot of, you have to be very, very, very careful about all these things. Yeah.
Okay. Roy, I know you mentioned some things about online training and things like that. With the COVID-19, how did that impact? And you all are traveling like large distances to do these classes.
Right.
So how did that impact your training during COVID-19, or is it still impacting? I know you've gone a little bit more online stuff, but I'm just curious to see how you continued on with those relationships and the training.
Right. We switched to online training mainly to maintain their certifications with the 8-hour updates, yearly updates. That's all we could do, really. Many of our courses are not geared to online training. hands-on. Many of our props and stuff, we had to do the hands-on, but whatever we could, we did online. But then when we started going to the trials, they started opening up. What they started doing, obviously, the mask and separations, one person per table, for example. So the classes were reduced and such. But we have kept going, especially with some of these tribes that we have worked for a long time. In Montana, for example, they haven't really slowed down as soon as they get back together. But I tell you what, some of the problems that we have had with online training and why they rather have in-person training is that not all of them have access to, say, computers. Specifically in Omatilla, Mr. David Wolf had everyone in one room and with one computer and a TV. And so we had the class for an entire group of about 20 people in one classroom. Many of them do not know how to use the computers, or the computers that they have it at work. So if they are not allowed to go back to work because of COVID, they had no other access to computers. So that was one of the problems that we had, that even when they could do it online, they didn't have access to a computer. Yes, you could do it on a phone, but many of them, again, they didn't know how to. Technology, let me put it that way, was a hindrance in some of these tribes.
Yeah, I would concur with that 100%.
Yeah. So I appreciate what you guys have done with as far as the worker groups, the populations, trying to get them employment and things. Have you felt like you've contributed to the community, the tribal community, in other ways with your presence there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was one of the most gratifying sort of events with my time working with the tribes has been as youth taking some of these classes, whether it's hazardous waste or OSHA or whatever, and seeing and that they can kind of wrap their minds around some of these technologies and these fields of study. We had one student that was so enthused, went on to go to the Evergreen State University in Olympia, Washington, to become an environmental scientist. Something that would not have happened had we not showed up and talked about all these kinds of things. And there's another fellow from the Umatilla Reservation that went on to start a sort of construction business within the tribe, and that person had taken our construction OSHA safety training and was sort of propelled and sort of enforced to start that business because of our classes. And and then some of the effects, you never know down the line like what it is. It doesn't get back to you, but we do want to do closer monitoring of these sort of success stories, and we do want to track and mentor some of our graduates, in conjunction with the taros over time, to see exactly what the effects are. And so we work with the socio-ecological model of evaluation, which looks at sort of concentric levels of effects that trainings have. The first level would be, a personal level, like what did it do for the person? The second level would be the interpersonal. How did the training affect the interpersonal relationships between other people? The third would be interorganizational effects. Did the training, produce, synergy between different organizations? And then finally, going out and out to different levels of these concentric rings is like, did this have any sort of policy effect, whether with the organizations themselves or in interaction with governmental or regulatory bodies? So we need to always continuously improve this evaluation system, and And so with our effort, with this RCT program, from the get-go, we're going to be looking at that. And you'll be hearing from me anything that's happening that's positive, and frankly, anything that's putting barriers in front of our project. So
Yeah, thank you, Rodrigo. What's a typical 12-week rad tech course cost per person if you get on the outside?
Well, it's free. So that rad tech, junior rad tech program, if you paid for it out of pocket, would be about $6,000 or $7,000, sometimes $8,000. So it's, they're getting it for free. And we're trying to figure out, creative ways to how to get people to the class and how to incentivize that. We never promise any resources or any monies that aren't there. But we do work closely with the tribes to figure out how we can aid them in the recruitment phase, and so that takes actually an in-person situation. So I basically fly out to the tribal areas and spend some days out there and visit with them and get firsthand to see what's going on.
Well, thank you, Rodrigo. And I guess the question is the name of the evaluation program that you used.
Yeah, the socio-ecological model.
Okay.
It's one of it's the one that in our consortium we're committed to using. So a lot of our success stories are consist of hitting points along that evaluation system.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your presentations. I would just like to make a few announcements. The next PEPH webinar is January 30th at 1 o'clock on social stress and susceptibility, and feature NIEHS funded research at the University of California, San Francisco, and Oregon State University. And the link is in the chat. You can keep in touch with PEPH via the listserv and the newsletter. And the podcast series explores how environmental exposures affect our health. Each episode highlighting ways researchers work in partnership with community groups to understand and address environmental health issues. If you have any ideas, please, new to PEPH webinar, let them know. They want to hear from you. And finally, I just want to thank Roy, Les, and Rodrigo for their presentation, and thank you all for your attention.